Yo, how's it going, everybody? I am Artorigold, and today I wanted to do a Ramattra guide. I'm going to try to make it as quickly as possible. He does become available tomorrow on the 20th, which is why I wanted to make this video, and I'll probably do some follow-up stuff on him as I play him more in ranked. So let's quickly go over the abilities and then move on to some in-game examples. Up first, we have his left click. As you can see, it's a projectile that you fire. You have to reload. You have 100 ammo. It's kind of hard to keep track of that, but you get a feel of it just from playing him more and more. And he has no fall off damage with this, meaning no matter how far away the enemy is, the damage will always be the same. One of the best things about this is that it can crit. It does a lot of damage, but it's pretty difficult to aim. It's not an ability that you really want to focus tanks with because the DPS just isn't quite there, but it's pretty effective at keeping squishies at bay. Next up, you have the right click. It's a shield that you pop up. This is kind of like Maywall, you have to target the ground, you have to aim it, and when you hold down the right click, you can hold down, I'll show you again here in a couple of seconds. It's up again, so I can hold down the right click and I can kind of aim it. As you can see, it can go really, really far. Put it on the high ground, do it whatever. If you wanted to cancel this, press the left click, and then that'll cancel that. Basically, this is just kind of how you would play any kind of poke. You put this up, you shoot, and you poke and hold corners and choke points, and that kind of play style is going to be the main thing that you do, especially on defense. If you're on defense, you want to find a really good kind of corner or something. Say, hey, this is your corner. Put up your shield, do a lot of poke damage around that corner, and then that's kind of how you're going to play. Next up, you have your E. Your E does a couple of neat things. First off, it slows. It's a big AoE on the ground. It's going to slow enemies, and it does a very tiny bit of damage. And obviously, when you do that, you can get more left-click shots in. But another thing that it does, and I don't think we can have an example of this in the training mode, but basically, if there is an enemy in the air, you can press your E, and it will slam them down to the ground so they can no longer fly when they are in the radius. Pretty effective against Mercies, Echoes, all of those characters. Now next up is his shift ability, which basically transforms him into a different mode completely. His left click turns into this punch that pierces, it hits anybody that is behind the target. It also goes through shields, does a pretty good amount of damage. So as you can see, you hit your shift, you go behind, you can punch right through them. Does damage to both, very effective at close quarters. The projectile does have a limit. It will not go super far, but essentially what you want to do is you also want to use this shift ability to tank. So if you quickly look, I have 450 health, no armor, click shift. Now I'm at 675 and I have a bunch of armor. Next thing up, not only do I gain the punch, I also gain my block ability, which is my right click. Now this is probably going to be changed later on, but currently it does 75% damage reduction for everything in the front. You take full damage in the back, just like you would if you were Doomfist. This blocks a ton. And then if you take into factor you have your armor, which also gives you 30% damage reduction, it's crazy. You take almost no damage. If someone is healing you while you are blocking, it is going to be almost impossible for you to die. So let's go ahead and put all of his kit together and how you would want to play him. So first off, on defense, you're going to focus on basically wherever the map is. You go to a choke, you're going to left click, you're going to use your shield, and you're going to use your E to slow enemies down who are trying to reach you at the choke point. And then, while your cooldowns are down, you're going to try and just be safe, get some heals, go back and forth between the corners, and if enemies try to get close to you, that's when you use your shift ability, and you can do two things. Depending on the range of the enemy, you can just simply stay here, hold down right click, absorb all the damage, which does a couple of things. First off, you're not going to die if you're holding down your right click. Nothing's going to kill you if you're getting healed at the beginning of a fight. You're basically just a giant, massive body in the way that the enemy has to shoot. And while you do that, your healers are going to heal you, which actually helps them build their ultimates quicker than the enemy team, since you're basically just giving them free ult charge. Now, another thing that you want to do before you go into shift form whenever possible, I definitely think you should use your E and use your right click then use your shift, because then while you do that, your cooldowns are going to happen while you can block, and then by the time you get out of your shift, you can have your cooldowns basically ready for you to use them again, and that's going to be your rotation, so you can go right back to using these abilities. One of the worst things that could happen to you is if you don't have your shift form and people are going to be running at you, because as soon as you're out of your shift form, you become immediately way easier to kill. So let's go ahead and talk about the ultimate. What this does is you press your Q ability and it immediately puts you into your shift form, which means you gain the armor, you gain the survivability, gain all of these abilities back. Next thing up, as you can notice, you create this giant AoE link towards all enemies. And it does this very slow but constant AoE damage to everybody in this purple ring around you. And as long as people are in here, your ultimate is going to be up forever. This is a great thing you can combine Nano Boost with. You can be as aggressive as you want, or you can just simply hold down right click and let your ultimate do the damage for you while you are basically invincible. There are a lot of ways to play this. You kind of have to feel what's better, to damage or to block. But just remember, you immediately go back to your original form after it is over. I think all around good choices to play Ramattra would be when you are on defense and you are trying to do a lot of poke damage on these crazy long maps where enemies have to come to you, which allows you to get a lot of poke damage in. Basically, any map that Sigma is good on is a map that Ramattra will be good on. So even as good as Ramattra is, I like to think of the tank hero pool to be kind of like a toolbox, and each tank hero is a tool. While Ramattra has a lot of great benefits, sometimes he's not always going to be the pick. If you are getting destroyed by a Roadhog who easily counters you, then maybe choose someone else. Alright, now that we're done with that, let's go ahead and dive into a few in-game examples. Alright, so now let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the VOD review section here. This is a quick play game, unfortunately, and things are probably going to change. But once Ranked comes out, I'll have plenty of content to make with that. So first off, how should you start every fight? Well, a lot of people can get aggressive and use the shift ability right away, but that's not how I like to play Ramattra. I think it's way better for you to use your shield and your E and just poke with your far range damage of your left click rather than just get aggressive off the bat. Now this is going to give them a little bit of space in the beginning. However, there are a few reasons why you want to do this. At the beginning of every fight, everybody's going to have their abilities and utility ready to counter you if you push. So for example, the Lucio, already he used the Amp, and right here you can see the Hanzo is using the Storm Arrows. So we're just trying to get rid of those abilities, put them on cooldown, and then we're going to look for the right moment to go in once they're not going to be as strong. A full team with full abilities is way stronger than a team with only half of their abilities or none. So another big thing I wanted to talk about with Ramattra is just how crazy his block is. So pay close attention to my health bar. All of the enemy team is trying to move through this choke point, and I am just going to hit shift, and I'm going to hold right click. Look at how little damage I'm taking, and all of them are looking at me. They're all trying to shoot me, and I just didn't take any damage there. It's actually crazy how long you can live. One of the things about using your ultimate, as you can see, which is really important here. So as you can see here, I get really low and I'm about to die, but transforming gives you a bunch of armor and survivability. So by using my ult, I'm not using it to be aggressive, I'm actually using it to get a huge boost in survivability because I gain all the damage reduction from my armor and damage reduction from my block, and I can just hold down right click, my allies can heal me to full, and I'm not going to die, all while zoning them from the point. One of the biggest things about Ramattra is just how powerful his right click is. You just have to get a lot of playtime on him to really understand that just standing here in this doorway is going to give you so much value. If there's a small choke point like this, and you can just stand here and you can block, you're going to have a ton of value for your team. And this is kind of how you should play Ramattra. You should basically deny the enemy the space and don't let them move you. Just stand still, kind of like with Orisa and her Fortify, and just let them come to you and just block. It's really effective, even if you're not doing damage. It's going to make it so everybody on the enemy team is going to waste abilities on you, which is better used on you because you're not going to get hurt by it, rather than hitting any of your allies in the back, who are not going to be touched at all. So yeah, guys, this was just meant to be a simple, quick video on Ramattra to help give you guys a little bit about how he plays. I think you guys are going to love him. He's really good in ranked mode. The things that you need to watch out for are roadhogs on the enemy ladder because they are going to counter you pretty easily. You are a very good tank, but just know when Ramattra is working and when he isn't going to work. And try to use your right click and your block in your shift form a lot because it is very, very good. Anyways, guys, if you guys like this video and you want to see more Ramattra content, let me know in the comment section, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.